All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm very excited to, in general, be working with women because I have my own reasons. Um, Traditionally, I work with men, a group of men, where we talk about everything from relationship to personal growth and how to become a better man in a relationship, of course. And more than anything, the roots, the psychology of men, women, um, the interaction between them, the psychology of either sex, and it's a very interesting psychology and how it interacts. Now, today, this meeting is specifically for you, for women. It's important for you as well, for us, all of us, not just you or us or them, or there is no separation at all. But it's important for us to understand what we're working with. The challenge happens when we assume um, or feel that we know, feel like we have the complete picture, feel like everything's going great, that we have everything under control. Um, and for some reason, we get results that aren't necessarily what I wanted. So whether it's encouraging my man to do something for me, or whether it is um, just the way I feel, it's not quite in line with what I was hoping for, with what I was planning for. Now, it's interesting how life works, right? Two people meet, they start getting to know each other, they fall in love, they um, test the waters, um, and it feels right, right? It feels right, like that connection. I feel that he's the right guy for me. He feels that she's the right girl for me, and they decide to take the relationship to a next level. Whatever that next level is in the relationship, it's absolutely up to the couple to decide. But next level, the interesting part is the next level isn't decided by anything other than how I feel about the other person, which is good, could be good, or it could be a disaster. So if we're talking specifically about statistics, for example, and statistics shows that we have 42% divorce rate. I believe the last statistic was 42%. So if we have 42% divorces, and that's first marriage, it gets a lot worse after the first marriage. Those who divorced the 42%, of those who remarry in the second marriage, 60% get divorced. Out of the 60% who get divorced, those who get remarried, 70% get divorced. Now, alarming statistics, sure. But I think it's just because we weren't really educated properly. I mean, what do we base all of our foundation on? Examples from our parents? At best, I had two parents. Not to say that they didn't fight or for some reason they had an ideal type of relationship between them. I can't say that. I can't say that. But to me as a child, this is the blueprint of how to behave as a man or a woman in a relationship. That is the essential blueprint, the foundation of relationships is what we get from our parents. Of course, it's not just our parents that are involved. We have a big society, so it's everything is influences us, especially as children. Movies, uh, peers, everything. People around us constantly give us example of how to behave, how to solve problems, how to handle um, what's even the purpose of relationship. That also determines society. So then we enter two completely different people. We enter into a relationship and we wonder why we start butting heads. Not right away. Some people, it takes them a year. Some people, it takes them 3 months, a month to start butting heads. But regardless, we always reach a level where heads start butting. At this point, the question isn't necessarily how to avoid that type of conflict. I mean, in relationship, two close people that are together and are literally like all the time, especially now with COVID out there, and we see each other more and more and more. There's going to be more friction. It's absolutely normal. The main question is how do we handle it and put our relationship as a priority above what's happening, above the friction, above the challenges. And there it gets a little dicey because it's not clear. We don't have a method that can teach us how to establish such groundbreaking rules in our family, in our relationship, in our marriage with our husband and wife and kids and all of our family on what is the purpose and how to guide ourselves through these situations. So this is what the love method for. This is what we've established ourselves as a place to create an environment where people can support each other as we learn this method, as we begin to practice it, as we begin to learn it in our relationship. And of course, with every new process, there are ups and downs and falls and upliftment. Um, and we need to support each other. So the very purpose of these meetings, and we're going to have them weekly, is to learn how to interact between men and between women so that we can bring peace back in the home. I think that's what we're missing mostly is peace back in the home. Now, some of the things that we'll discuss here, and every meeting will open up a new topic. Every meeting will take it even deeper. Every meeting will allow us to open the aspect of relationship and how to handle them in a completely new way. So it may sound similar, but suddenly you'll begin to feel that it has a lot more volume to it, a lot more space. You begin to notice and feel these aspects in your relationships, which is very, very cool. Now, the main challenge is the blueprint, as I call it. It's more of a fact than a challenge. It's just that it becomes a problem where we're not aware of it. So, what is the blueprint? A blueprint is essentially my internal mental and emotional map, roadmap, that is constructed to make me happy. From childhood, from birth, my environment, those people who are older than me, who are more experienced than me, who have influence on me, have shaped me to understand and interact with this reality in a way that will make me happy. This is crucial to understand that this roadmap, this blueprint, is shaped through a billion different interactions with parents and peers and friends and teachers and coworkers and all the way through life. And it still does little micro adjustments maybe as we grow older. But as adults, it's pretty still. It's pretty solid at this point. It's formed, it's formulated. That inner blueprint controls our lives. Not in a bad way, it's a guiding system. It tells us if you want to be happy, stay away from people like that. Right? You look somebody in the street, you suddenly get a little gut feeling. I need to stay away from that guy, girl, whatever. You cross across the street. Those little you feel like, oh, it's intuition. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. That inner blueprint is guiding us every step of the way according to a very simple principle. How do I achieve more pleasure and avoid as much pain as possible? How do I get more pleasure, feel myself more fulfilled and satisfied, and stay away from all the troubles as much as possible? For every person, that blueprint looks completely different in its manifestation, but the core, the operational system, the psychology of each and every person is exactly that. How do I stay away from trouble and get as much good as I define good and as I define trouble as much as possible? And that internal mechanism, internal structure, is responsible to get us there. Now, how is it formed? Right? We spoke about parents and other people influencing us, and of course, movies and all of the industry that's around us, everything around us shaped our internal world to be exactly as it is today. Through all the experiences we've gone through all of the scrutinies that we've gone through. Um, at the end of the day, this is, I know, is going to make me happy. And if I do X, Y, and Z, it's going to be painful. This is why a lot of people dream about relationship instead of actually pursuing them. Because their mantra is relationships are painful. So I would rather play in relationships. I would rather hold back. I would rather and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where that blueprint, you still have a desire to be in a relationship. It's a human basic need. So it overcomes your blueprint for a little bit, but then the blueprint takes over and it has to prove you right. It has to prove you right because we all want to be right. I don't want to be wrong. I want to be right because if I'm wrong, it shatters my blueprint. I lose a sense of identity if it does that. I lose my ability to maneuver in the world if my blueprint is shattered. If some earth-shattering concept that contradicts mine occurs, it shatters my world because I have to change my belief system. And because I identify with the blueprint, I don't look at it from the side and say, and analyze it and work with it and say, okay, this is what this blueprint believes. This is how it believes I can reach happiness, right? So if I nag, eventually I'm going to get what I want. That's a blueprint. This is something that I saw examples from my mother and grandmother and all of my friends and then da 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 da. This is what they make fun of in movies. I see that this is an example of an action leading to a result. I want the result. What do I care? What action do I have to perform? So my blueprint says nag, but then I begin to see that it doesn't work. I don't really get the action that I want, and there's a lot of byproducts. So we begin to see that our blueprint isn't necessarily in line with reality. As if there's a certain flow of reality, a certain flow, certain rules, certain conduct of this thing that we call reality. And when I interact with it according to my personal blueprint, to my beliefs, to my understandings, to my ability uh, to try to basically influence that external flow rather than having the external flow influence me. What happens is a very strong friction which is why when we enter relationships, those two completely different people with completely different blueprints, with completely different understandings and wishes and view of life get together. Is it a surprise that we have friction in the relationships? It's not a surprise. It's good. It's good for a very specific reason. Nature has designed it in such a way, and this is a very interesting secret. Nature has designed it in such a way that within the relationships, we can shed all of our past obstacles, all of our past problems, everything, and experience the most sublime experience a human being can experience in his lifetime. It's the feeling of interconnection with another person, an internal, open, spiritual connection with another person. Interesting. So, how does it work? It works in a way that when we are able to enter this process that I call the love method, for example, and we practice the approach that we're going to be speaking about in the meetings, it develops our sense of awareness of that blueprint, of how it calculates what's pleasurable and what's not. And the same with my partner, husband, whatever you want to call him, whatever he is. And the interesting part is you begin to essentially separate from that identity of the blueprint. You begin to look at it critically. Your blueprint and your partner's, and that type of interaction, it builds a common space, a common field between you and your relationship that allows you to live in that space. It's something that cannot be communicated as much as I'd like to. Something that has to be experienced. And it will be challenging, and it can be challenging, and it can be very simple. Depends on where each of us are, where each of us are at. Either way, when we begin to practice these steps with our partner, we begin to see that it may not go as well as I'd hoped. Suddenly, all of these things fly out. Suddenly, we're actually fighting more than we used to. Awesome. Why? Because that blueprint is a very hidden network of calculations. We'll call them calculations because it's a formula, an inner formula, the blueprint, the roadmap, we'll call it whatever you like to call it. But it has a very finite, very fine and fine-tuned calculations. So they begin to come out. They begin to show themselves. Why? Because the secret is when we work not against each other, when we work not in a way that we clash, our two blueprints clash, but in a way that we, my partner and I, we come together and we look at ourselves from the side and we actually begin to analyze the situation, because what's important, what's very really important, is the way we relate to each other. Not what jumps at us from our ego, what jumps at us from the outside, but rather how do we approach it together? Because in this together, in this common space, is where we reveal true love, where we reveal true connection, true sense of just purpose and being and energy that we've never experienced before. So I'd like to invite you to our next meeting. With interaction with you, we're going to be able to open this a lot more in ways that you couldn't even imagine. Suddenly your relationship is going to be so clear to you. You're going to look at your partner and you're going to read him through and through. You're going to understand yourself and how you do and why you do certain things, your partner and why he does certain things and why he reacts a certain way, and how you can get him to react in a way that that is beneficial for you, for him, and for the family. It's very important for a woman to be able to do that because you have a huge influence on him, more than you know. And if we know how to use the tools that nature gave us properly, we can have heaven within our marriage, within our relationship. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, same time, Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. And of course, have a wonderful week.